Welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I'm your host, CrashLit. Today, I'm excited to be joined by possibly one of the most beloved walk-ons in USC history, in USC women's basketball alum, India Otto. India, thank you for joining me today on the show.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. You're the OG number one fan, even since, I started at USC, so it's an honor to be here.
Appreciate it. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at India Auto. Be sure to follow me at CrashLit, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get it on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. We should be everywhere if you are into the video version. Be sure to follow my YouTube channel at CrashLit to see the video version like this one. So let's get into this video, India. And I really want to ask you about kind of what got you into basketball and just how did you really just develop such a love for the game?
Yeah, so I think, at the beginning, my parents signed me up for pretty much any sport, kind of just like the start of most kids. I played soccer when I was a kid. Didn't really like that. I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't like a passion of mine. And then I started playing basketball and I instantly fell in love with it. It's just such a beautiful game. And I mean, I instantly was like, I want to play basketball. This is the thing that I want to do. My parents are both like in the arts and in the entertainment industry. And so I would do all the school plays and do those kind of things as well. And I liked that, but it was just something about basketball I just knew it was for me. So I started playing basketball when I was in like third grade, just for rec leagues and things like that, playing with my friends, playing for my school. And then I just really started getting competitive with it. And I played for club teams and I played for a Nike EYBL team, which like it's a big circuit team for Nike. Um, and that was my sophomore and junior year, and it kind of just like took off from there. And yeah, so I've just loved basketball since for as long as I can remember. I've just, lived and breathed the game. And I had some, was really grateful to have some incredible mentors that played basketball professionally and things like that. So it just kind of further instilled this, passion in me.
I do want to ask you about one of those mentors, the late, great Kobe Bryant, and just kind of what was your relationship like with the Bryant family, especially, getting to be trained by Kobe and then also, getting to mentor Gigi a little bit, as I understand.
Yeah, so my dad and Kobe were really good friends, and so it kind of started from there. And I would always go to Laker games and things like that. And from there, our relationship grew, and I was just so grateful to be able to call him a friend and a mentor, and could pick up the phone and ask questions and advice and things like that, and just to see he's the greatest of all time in my eyes, and just the mama mentality. And I try to, carry that with me every single day. And a day doesn't go by that I don't think about them in some capacity. And again, they just inspire me, every day to always have that mamba mentality. And that's, not just in sports, that's just, life in general. And they've have had such a profound impact on my life and continue to, each and every day. And yeah, so it was cool. I would go sometimes to see when he was coaching like his mama team, and sometimes I would go, see their practices and things like that, and just to see their growth and how much even those kids at such a young age just loved the game of basketball and were so process driven, which is I think such a unique thing for a coach to like instill in young kids, because we live in a time now where like this instant gratification and like you just want things now, 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 now. And it's just kind of about the end goal. And the biggest thing with Kobe is about it's about the journey, like not the destination. And it's just as much rewarding the process and who you become in the process of chasing this goal than it is even getting the goal. And so that was cool to just kind of see those kids. And I didn't go to like every practice and things like that. I would just, go occasionally, but just to see like how invested in the process they were, which was super cool. And yeah, so yeah, I mean they just had such a big, impact on my life, and he definitely helped me kind of, grow the my love for the game kind of grew and things like that. And so they're the best.
Absolutely. And I do want to kind of follow up with that is I do remember seeing that I think it was right when you first got to USC, right after obviously everything went down with the helicopter crash and they passed away. You made the decision to change to number two in honor of Gigi. Can you talk about what went into that decision, especially just because it was like obviously, I mean, just with everything. I mean, I'm getting emotional talking about it since I like went to high school with his oldest daughter. So, but
Yeah.
just wanted to ask you about just that kind of like what really inspired that number change.
Yeah, I mean, obviously after, that happened, the next day I texted my coaches and I was like, I would like to, change my number to number two to just honor her. And they knew like my relationship with and how important he was and they were to me. So they were incredible and they were like, absolutely, we can make that happen. So, think a couple games later, I was able to wear number two, and that's just something I really wanted to do was just honor her and honor them, and it felt like such an easy choice and just the right thing to do. And obviously, I was a bit older than Gigi at the time, um, so we weren't like friends like that, you know what I mean? Like there was such an age gap, but seeing her through the years and stuff like that and seeing her love for the game grow and just she was an incredible young person who, had just such a bright future and I just wanted to honor her and the game that she loved.
Absolutely. And then kind of now I do want to transition into talking about your time at USC. So what made you decide to want to walk on to the basketball team at USC rather than go somewhere where maybe you could have seen a bigger playing role or just be a normal student at USC?
Yeah, so it's funny because yeah, I played for the Nike UIBL team, which, you get a lot of great exposure into, colleges and you're always in the big tournaments and you're playing against the best in the country. So it was an incredible platform to get exposure. And so I had opportunities to go to, some mid-major schools and some Ivy League schools and things like that. And it's actually funny, growing up, I wasn't like the biggest USC fan. I would go to some games because I was, a basketball fan. Like I didn't really have a team. But if I'm being honest, like I went to like more UCLA games because I lived a bit closer by. I wasn't like a UCLA fan per se, but I attended more of their games. So USC wasn't really like on my radar of like a thought of going there ever or like a dream of mine. But when kind of the opportunity started to present itself a little bit and I started to learn more about the school and I was like, God, this school and I visited on like a little unofficial visit and the school was just like beautiful. You kind of get this idea about, USC's downtown and I didn't really like know much about it. And then when I actually like visited campus, I was like, oh my God, like I love it. This is just such a beautiful campus. It feels like it's own oasis, like you don't even know really where you are. Um, and I just like instantly fell in love when I visited campus and just the vibe that I felt. I kind of knew in my gut that like this is a place where I wanted to be, and academics was really important for me. So, getting a world-class education was really important to me and being closer to home. I have a really strong relationship with my parents. We're very close, and so I didn't want to be like super close by, but I mean they live like 30 minutes away from here, so it is still kind of close, but I wanted to be able to go home or see them when I wanted to. So being close to home was something that I started to factor in, and yeah, I just fell in love with the school, and at the time the program was really trying to rebuild and build, and I really loved, the things that they had to say and the direction that they wanted to go, and I really believed in their vision. And my class was a really large class, a rebuilding class, and so yeah, I just really wanted to bet on myself, and was confident that I could really make an impact and I could really add value, which is something that I just really wanted to do is add value wherever I go. And so I was just really kind of confident in that and I was confident in like my shooting ability and I was like I could do this and so I decided to bet on myself, but it's actually funny. I'm about to like debunk kind of this whole like walk-on thing, which is it's just crazy because like not many people know. But obviously like I came in as a preferred walk-on, which is essentially like a program where the school like knows about you and wants you to come, but they don't have like scholarship for you. So you're like a preferred walk-on. And then there's also, in some places there's walk-ons where you do like tryouts, you know what I mean? Like football does like walk-on tryouts. And there's the preferred walk-on. So I was a preferred walk-on. Um, and in the summer, I came in the summer and I worked really, really hard. I was like, extra in the strength room and conditioning, and because I have a more of a slender, skinny kind of frame, so it's kind of hard for me to put on weight and put on muscle. So I was working extra hard in the weight room, and just really worked hard in the summer. And actually, by the end of the summer, Coach Track and the staff were like, "We've just been so impressed with, how much you've, impacted our program already positively, and such a great teammate, and you're working so hard, and like we just love everything that you're about and the value that you're adding." So they actually had a scholarship like available, and they gave it to me, which is incredible. So I actually, so people don't really know this, but so from year to year, like they were just like, "We want to give you, like, we have another one available, like we want to give you another scholarship, like you're just such an integral part of the program." So I actually was a scholarship player for 5 years, which was incredible. So not many people like really know that, but yeah, but I always carried that like walk on mentality, because you have to. Because to me, I still felt like, like a walk on, and that I was always kind of overlooked, and stuff like that. And I've always had this mentality of I want to earn everything. Um, and yeah, so I always carried on that walk on mentality. And I actually loved that, people called me to walk on, all those kind of things. So I never really like said anything about it, because I think it was awesome, and I loved that, and essentially I still kind of was, but yeah, I was so thankful to Coach Track and that staff for believing in me, and yeah, it was awesome. And then Lindsay and her staff, when she came in, and she was just like, I kind of known her through the years a little bit. She was recruiting one of my high school teammates pretty heavily at the time, so she would come to my high school practices and things like that. And so I'd seen her around. And so she knew of me a bit. And so it was also, she was like, "Oh, it's a no-brainer for me, like to see the value that you've had over the last couple of years. I want to do the same thing, for you." So incredibly grateful to Lindsay and Coach Track and their staffs.
Well, I just learned something new, I think, along with probably almost everyone else
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
listening to this
exactly.
right as we're talking right now. And
Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
still
So,
think like I agree with you though, that it's like definitely I think because like you were originally a walk-on, I think definitely
yeah,
the way you like carried yourself. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it's
no,
just like
100%.
I think it's what
100%.
made you so beloved to the Trojan family, to the fan base, is that it's like the way you just were, you carried yourself, you were like probably one of the most selfless players on that team because of that, I think. So it's just really, I think, even though everyone's about to learn something new about you,
Yeah,
including myself,
yeah.
that I think it's still like, obviously, I think it's, we can all probably agree you definitely like deserved it and like, are obviously, I think I can speak for everyone listening that we're super happy for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I always, took it as a badge of honor, and I was honored when everybody, called me welcome, because again, I felt like I was, and I always wanted to show up, the best version of myself each and every day, regardless of, what was happening in my life. And yeah, I did take pride on always being the most selfless, player on each team that I, played in at USC. And so, um, yeah, I always, wanted to carry that walk-on mentality for sure.
I do want to ask you about those first 2 years when you were at USC playing under Mark Track. Like, what were those years like? Especially because I know, obviously, kind of the years before Lindsay Gottlieb got there was kind of obviously like tough program. People weren't really coming. It was kind of definitely don't not sure if this is definitely just like it wasn't exactly like program. And I'm not trying to critique anyone here, but definitely didn't have the same like respect that it has
Sure,
now.
for sure. Yeah, it was interesting. I think my freshman year we went through season, and then obviously COVID happened, and that was right before like the NCAA tournament, and WNIT was about to start. So, the rest of our season was shut down, and those were just extremely unprecedented times. And so I think that definitely affected my first 2 years, and every athlete across every sport, across the country, can speak on that too, that it was just, very challenging times. But I think ultimately looking back in terms of like how that affected me and as a person, I definitely learned, so much. And again, I think what's incredible about sports, and playing, Division 1 or Division 2, or, playing collegiately is, all the lessons that you learn from sports, and how to handle adversity, and how to be adaptable, and how to work with people, and how to communicate. And just sports, really just teaches you about life. And so, and that's without, a global pandemic happening. So with the global pandemic happening, that just kind of elevated it to another level. So ultimately, I think I learned a lot that had, served me really well in my life, but it was definitely challenging. My freshman year was, yeah, it was like basically a whole new team. It was me and six other, people, a class of seven freshmen that were coming in. And obviously when you're a freshman, everything is new to you, and, you're adjusting to a new schedule and a new routine and time management and, school that's difficult and, all these workouts and, you have all these things expected of you. And so, that was challenging as it is. And, the season it was hard, but we learned a lot, and it was kind of a good stepping stone for us. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and it was myself and two other people, Desi Caldwell and Shalexis Aaron, that were in Los Angeles from March until like October. So everybody else had went home, and they weren't allowing anybody else to come back. So it was just like the three of us that were like working out with our strength coach every day. We had to go outside, if people listening, if you know USC, we had to go on the little grass field outside of John McKay Center. And so we were working out there every single day at like 6 a.m. We couldn't do basketball, so it was just that. But the three of us like had each other, which was nice. And obviously I would go home, and, I was living at home, and then October rolled around, and then the university allowed like athletes to come back. So our team came back, I think it was like in October. And we were like pretty much all in the village. And obviously the rules and regulations were insane. We had to, wake up, understandably so, but we had to wake up. It's like 6 a.m. every single day. We had to go test at the aquatic center, all the athletes. We had different block times just to make sure you didn't have COVID. And there was all the social distancing, and so then we were able to like practice and things like that. But we'd have baskets, and we had to like wash everything. We had masks, and we had to play with masks. It was crazy times. But it was cool because like we were us and like all the other sports teams for the most part, like football, basketball teams, and I think a couple other teams were like the only people on campus. So it was like a ghost town. It was really crazy, and it was like living Groundhog's Day each and every day, because every day was just like the same. But looking back, it was just, yeah, I couldn't imagine USC with only like a couple sports teams, people being there. All the classes were online and things like that. And so then stuff didn't go back to normal until like my junior year. So it was crazy. I felt like I just jumped from my freshman to my junior year. And yeah, so the first 2 years were definitely, interesting, and yeah, crazy, crazy times looking back on.
I do now want to ask you, obviously, Mark Track retires at the end of the 2020-2021 season, and Lindsay Gottlieb takes over. You obviously talked, you had a relationship with her already, but what made you decide to still keep playing for USC, or just not decide to like look elsewhere to play?
Yeah, I think for me, my parents kind of instilled in me, and it was something that is just kind of like ingrained in me as a human being, is this idea of, I really wanted to just go to a school and leave, the program or leave the place like better than I found it, and the people around. Um, and so that was always kind of my goal. And um, when a lot of people decided to leave, and, I thought that that's like the easy thing to do. And so I always like a challenge, and I was just like, no, I really love this school, and I love this program. And again, hearing like Lindsay's vision and just understanding the big picture. I'm like a big picture thinker, and like process driven, and I'm just kind of about the end goal and things like that. So thinking ahead, and I was like, no, I'm this program is really going to be something. And just hearing, Lindsay's vision, and I believed in her, and um I just believed in where we were going. So it was the easy choice for me to stay, and see it through. And ultimately, it's the greatest, the greatest choice I made, I think, to see it through. But yeah, I mean, I loved Lindsay, and the staff that she was bringing in. And again, it was a tough like year, 2 years after that. It was gradually getting a little bit better, but then it all took off from there.
Yeah, you definitely really spoke about that vision. I've heard a little about how she had that vision of just getting that team to where it is now, getting into Elite Eights, being like in the conversation
Yeah.
for the national championship each year. And it really kind of took off. It was that her third year there when JuJu Watkins arrived. And obviously the hype had been building for a year because JuJu was obviously
Yeah.
very present. I remember during Coach Gottlieb's second year.
Yeah.
So what was that kind of like? Just especially once Juju came, and obviously I do when like Juju came and really just things took off.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the juju effect is absolutely 100% real. It is absolutely incredible to see not only the impact that she's had on like the USC women's basketball program and USC athletics as a whole, but just women's basketball. She has just had such a positive impact and um, it has really like changed the lives of young girls and young boys and young and old people like everywhere. And she is is the future of the game and she's the now of the game. And so yeah, I mean, I knew when the first couple practices, I was like, oh my God, this kid is like, is unreal. Like she is going to have a major, major, incredible freshman year. And obviously she, made history and did things that have never been done before and never will happen again. So she had an incredible year. And um, yeah, it just USC women's basketball took off, and I was like, the program is absolutely in the right hands. And so, that was the most incredible last year playing, and that was my favorite year, playing basketball ever, even outside of winning. It was just the most incredible special team I've ever been a part of. And so deciding to take my fifth year to stay was the greatest, decision I've made thus far in my life. But yeah, it was so cool in my last year to see, just thinking back on my first like 4 years, first 3 years at USC, and just seeing how overnight, well, not even overnight, but just like the gradual increase, but I guess kind of overnight in that last year, how the growth of women's basketball and the growth of this program, and to see, where it started. And there was literally you and 20 other people in the stands. And then, you're selling out, UCLA with the most amount of people ever been in Galen ever. And so it was really cool to see. And I credit Juju and I credit Lindsay's vision and um on the program and the transfers coming in that year. And so um it was awesome. But yeah, the juju effect is real, and she's already left her imprint on USC women's basketball.
I knew at the moment I saw that first game in Vegas when I went to Rocks to watch it on TV while I got lunch between classes, and I think I had to make a TikTok later that week for someone. I was just like, "All right, this kid's for real. Juju is a baller,"
Oh,
and but
it's unreal. Even like just like in practice in the summer workouts and just practices, like sometimes I mean my jaw would just be like on some of the things that she was doing, and I was like, oh, this is just effortless for her. So I knew even then, and just to see how hard she works. No one works harder than her, and to see how much she cares about her craft at such a young age was definitely really special. And that's what sets apart the greats from the goods for sure. So I was like, she's the one.
I do before I ask you about just that final year when you played on the team, I do want to ask you about just your relationship with JuJu Watkins because I always you could so often it's like you often always saw India Otto and JuJu Watkins together on campus. You two seem pretty inseparable, like, and I understand you were roommates, I think, and
Yeah, we were roommates for that was also like a story that was going around. We were roommates for like every road trip. So like not actually roommates
oh,
for like
but
day-to-day life, but for every like road trip during season, we were roommates. Yeah.
but can you just talk further about just like what your relationship was like with Juju? Because you two seemed like incredible. You seem incredibly close, and it just obviously it seems like you're just like really just like it's just really cool to see. So can you just talk more to
Yeah.
just your relationship with Juju?
Yeah, Juju's incredible. She's one of the best people I know, and even just beyond her incredible like basketball talent, she's just an incredible person, and is just so humble, and um, just so incredibly kind. And just to see, I think in my last year and playing and like this past year and stuff like that, just to see the amount of um care that she gives, to all her fans and to people is really something special. I think that one of the greatest um things that like anybody could do for another person is just to really like make them feel seen and make them feel like the most important person in the room. And I felt like just kind of observing her and obviously like knowing her, she makes everybody feel really special. And I think that that's a really rare thing to do. And especially somebody who's, as incredible as she is, um, to make it like she doesn't make things about her, which is, very easy for people in that position to make kind of everything about you. And she's just incredibly humble and she just lives, her life with so much grace and humility. And, she's one of the kindest people I know, so incredibly generous. And she's just the best. And so, I think even with this year, if there's anything that I've learned or have been reminded by, with this season is just, how much USC misses JuJu and how much the women's game misses JuJu. So I'm so excited for her to be back and playing the game she loves. But yeah, to answer your question, JuJu is truly an incredible soul, an incredible person, and there's no all these incredible things that are happening couldn't, be happening to a better person.
I still remember that first time I think I ran into you at that football game, my junior year, and you were with Juju and you introduced me, and she could not have been happier to take a selfie with me. Like I
Yeah.
will never forget that. Just how much she was like willing to just, introduce herself and like get to know just anyone really is. So
And that's like who she is. Like that's all across the board, no matter what moment she always just gives her utmost time and attention and presence to each and every one. And, it's exhausting, being in a position like hers. It could get really tiring and but she just always there's never a moment where she's not, fully present or giving somebody her utmost attention, which I just think is an incredible thing to do, especially, somebody who's so young. And yeah, she's only going to continue to do incredible, amazing things. And again, there's nobody more deserving of those things.
I do not want to talk to you about just what that final year was like. You were voted a team cap. You were named a team captain. USC won the Pac-12 in an absolutely amazing game in Vegas, and then also made it all the way to the Elite Eight. So like, what was it like to see all those things, get to host March Madness, and then you got your moment in front of especially when you got your moment in front of the Trojan family, one that I unfortunately didn't get to be there to witness, but just like get to really just have the Trojan family behind you and cheering as you made that one 3-pointer.
Yeah, I mean, winning the Pac-12 tournament it was actually won the Pac-12 tournament on my birthday. And it's funny because for months, since probably around like December or January, obviously we were having a really great year and we were just firing on all cylinders. And again, our team was just so close and it was just such a good group. And it was just something special and everybody a part of the group knew that. And if you were on the outside, you could really see it. And so like there was like January and I was like, Lindsay, like Pac-12 championship, March 10th on my birthday. Like I just kept every single day. Like I would just be like, March 10th, my birthday, like we're getting there, we're gonna make it. And she's like, can I just make it through like, this next practice? And I'm like, I'm telling you, March 10th, my birthday. So I feel as if I like manifested it a bit for us as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was just obviously we beat Stanford, off of Juju's incredible 51 points. That was the single greatest performance I've ever seen with my own two eyes. It was incredible. Outside of her performance versus UCLA at home last year, that was equally as incredible. But anyway, so we had beaten them, and I was like, so, if you do something one time, you could do it 100 times. So I was like, I know that we're capable of beating them again. Even though, they're such a historic, incredible program. But I was like, we're gonna beat them. We're gonna get them again. And we obviously did. And that was the greatest birthday of my life, which I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks that like that was the greatest birthday ever. I'm like, every birthday is gonna not be as good from this point forward, but I was okay with that. So I was incredible. I was just filled with so much emotion, and it was just incredible. And then yeah, the NCAA tournament, we played, I think, Texas Corpus Christi, and had my big moment for sure, which was, oh, I to me, I'm like, that was the greatest kind of moment of my life, for sure. And it was just like, it kind of perfectly encapsulated like my entire like USC experience. And I think it was just a culmination of everything that I've been through. And again, as I was talking about earlier, just like seeing it all through, and seeing where the program was now. And I've always been, um this most selfless, teammate I can be. And whatever way I can support my teammates, however that looks, I want to do that. And I've always just been about, the vision of the team, and just putting the team first. And so to kind of finally, get my moment was really something special and cool. And so yeah, it was unreal. I kind of like blacked out when I like shot that three. It was crazy. So I had my, which is also, this is also pretty crazy, but I had, when I came in, I checked in and I got my layup, I put it up with like 2 seconds left on the shot clock, which was crazy. And obviously that was cool. Everybody was super excited, and it sold out crowd again. And then, went back on defense. I think Clarice stripped the ball from one of their post players, and then like Roxanne got it, and we were in transition, and I was running on the right wing, and I was like, I'm gonna shoot this three, like if I get this ball, because I had like so much space. And I'm very confident in my shooting ability. I feel like I can take on anybody in a shooting competition. That's my thing. So I was like, I'm gonna shoot this three. And so sure enough, she pitched it to me, and I just, like, when I tell you, I don't even remember like making the conscious, I just shot it and I let it go. And it's crazy, like at the time I didn't obviously know this, but when I was looking at the highlights, the ball went in with 24 seconds left on the shot clock. And obviously like Vanessa and Natalia, and who I'm close with, and um the Bryant family was there. And so that kind of gave me chills. And it wasn't something that I realized in the moment. It was actually like the next day that I'm like getting emotional thinking about it. And I saw like those highlights, and I noticed that. And I was like, yeah, I felt like they were, there in the room, watching that. So that was really cool. And yeah, it was just an incredible moment. It's probably my favorite basketball memory ever, outside of us winning the Pac-12 championship. But again, it was just a culmination of kind of everything that I've put into the USC program. And finally getting like, my little moment, and I wanted to make the most of it.
I can imagine. And I do want to ask you just about, obviously, India, we've seen over the last years just this really just explosion, just growth, and just in the popularity of women's sports. So what is it like, you as a former basketball player yourself, to just, really see, just not just USC, but just kind of not just USC, but just really women's basketball, especially at the collegiate level, really just see just this unprecedented popularity during your final year, especially in part because of JuJu Watkins coming to USC.
Yeah, for sure. It's just incredible just to see the growth of women's sports in general, and women's basketball as well. Yeah, I mean, for somebody who, to see where it was, when I came in as a freshman, just to see where it was when I ended, and obviously now being, graduated and on the outside of it, to see it continue to explode is so cool. And it's so deserving. And women's sports is the thing, and it's fun to watch, and there's incredible players, whether we're talking about basketball or any other sport. Women's sports is just, it's incredible. And so to see, the growth has been amazing. And again, yeah, I credit, Juju a lot with that, and the emergence, especially of the USC women's basketball program, and the excitement that was surrounding our program from the community, and from celebrities, and just from the media, and from everybody. There was just you could just feel this excitement around our program. And again, as I said before, the Juju effect is real. And that's not just, her as a basketball player, and, the the incredible things that she can do on a basketball court. There's nothing she can't do on a basketball court. But also just who she was and who she is um, as a person, and people feel that her authenticity and her she just has a specialness about her, and also the Caitlin Clarks and the Paige Beckers and the Angel Reese. They've taken this to new heights, and basketball is just really exciting to watch. Like women's college basketball, I'm obviously a big basketball fan in general. I live and breathe the game, and so I watch the NBA and the WNBA and men's college and women's college. But there's just like women's college basketball is more fun to watch than like NCAA men's basketball and men's college basketball, and the WNBA I feel like is more fun to watch than the NBA right now. Like people are finally starting to recognize it and give, these women the props and the platform that they deserve and have been asking for a really long time. And we're just, the product is, it's about the product at the end of the day, and the product is incredible, and they're showing just how important women's sports is. So the game will only continue to grow, and with these stars, and then the next generation, and things like that. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time for women's sports.
I absolutely agree. And I've always looked at it as, and part of why I got sucked into going to just games in general is like, if you're going to go to, I'm not saying don't support men's sports, but I've always like, if you're going to go to it, why not go to women's as well? That's how I always looked at it. So that's part of what drew me into it, especially like why I was always going to those games even early on, even when no one else would.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, exactly. It's never about like don't support men's sports. I think, men's sports is also, incredible and things like that, but it's about why can't you support women's sports as well? And so I think that, again, people are finally, waking up and seeing how exciting women's sports is, and it's only going to continue to expand and grow. And so I'm excited to see where, women's basketball goes, and sports in general.
Absolutely. That's why like anytime I get an opportunity to see like a big game, and especially in
Yeah,
women's sports, I take it full advantage. Like why I
for
went to the
sure.
Pac-12 championship, the Yukon game even last week when we
Yeah.
talked about getting you on here behind the caution
Yeah,
tape.
yeah.
And now I do want to ask you about just what was it like last after you finished playing, you exhausted your eligibility, coming back and being part of the staff as the coordinator of player engagement?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely a challenge for me, I think, at times. To be, I was a part of the program as a player for 5 years, and then, you know, essentially a couple months later, coming in this different capacity and different role. So it's definitely challenging for me as at times, in terms of like, you're like, okay, wait, I'm not like a player anymore. Like you have to, you know what I mean? It's like it's a little bit of a shock to the system. And anybody can speak to that. Like if you play college sports and then you're no longer playing, like it's just a shock to the system to adjust to, not being a college, student athlete anymore. And you're like, well, what am I doing now? But anyway, it was incredible. Lindsay giving me that opportunity to come back, and she felt that I could, still really be impactful to the team, and as we were, trying to chase a national championship. And so it was really valuable, year for me, and I learned so much about, myself, and I was really grateful to be a part of the program again. And as we, were really trying to chase a national championship, and we were really close. And yeah, it was really cool to, just, help the transfers coming in and help the freshmen acclimate. Obviously we had a really great freshman class that was coming in, and helping JuJu and things like that. So, and just, the team in general. So I was, it was really cool. It was fun experience for sure. And again, one thing about, being a student athlete, especially basketball, which is essentially all year round, you don't get opportunities to do internships or to kind of explore career paths, because, it is a job, playing, college athletics, Division 1 sports is a job essentially. And so it was cool for me to kind of get my first taste of like a real job, and having responsibilities and things like that. And obviously, I'm forever indebted to the USC women's basketball program, and that it's changed my life in such a profound way. And being playing basketball for USC, definitely single-handedly changed the trajectory of my life in such a positive way. So to give back in a different role, in a different capacity, was something I couldn't pass up. And I definitely enjoyed my last year.
And then what was it like to, be a part of that team that won the Big Ten, even from more of in a more staffer coaching capacity, not as a player?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, just to see again, day in and day out how much, that team put into the game and put into wanting to win. And so, that was our goal as a team was to, win the Big Ten championship. And I think even for me, like winning the regular season championship, I think is even more important and a bigger deal than like winning the tournament per se because it's kind of just reflects body of work. And so, winning a regular season really just again reflects like what you've been able to do all season, which is hard. You see teams that start off really strong and then they kind of hit a wall at some point and then things can kind of start snowballing. The opposite direction. And then you have teams that kind of start slow and don't start off great. And then, they hit a wall, but in a good way and they connect, more and then they start getting a bunch of wins. So, for us to have sustained success over that whole, Big Ten conference, and it was completely different and new for us. I mean, we're traveling, way further than we were used to in Pac-12, and that really does take a toll on your body again, outside of responsibilities as a student and in the era of NIL, these players have responsibilities in that capacity as well. So there's a lot of things being asked of you. And so the travel was definitely real and it was difficult. And so again, to see our sustained success during that, our first inaugural season in the Big Ten to win that regular season, I think was really special. And again, just kind of um, reflected, what they set out as a team and what we set out as a team to accomplish. So it was definitely, cool to see again from a different role, um, that happened. It was cool to like get one as a player, the previous year with the Pac-12 and getting to the Elite Eight, and then obviously last year as a on staff.
And now I do want to ask you about just during that March Madness run last year, just what went through your head as just someone super close with JuJu to just see her, go down and tear her ACL?
Yeah, it was just it still, makes me emotional thinking about it. It's hard not to um, you know, think if how things would be, how things would be different if, that didn't happen in terms of just like for her, as a person and as a player. And then also, as a team, I think undoubtedly we would have, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to get into like I can't predict like the future what would have been, but I think that we definitely would have, had a great opportunity to win it all. And so, but just that moment, um, it was just heartbreaking. I mean, it was just utterly heartbreaking. And she's somebody who's so incredibly tough, mentally and physically. And every time she goes down, she gets right back up. And to see her uh like go down like that and not get up was definitely really tough to see. And that's somebody that I love and care about tremendously, and my closest friend. And so um to see that as a friend and as a person it was really difficult. And then obviously as a player too, and just to again that she was on the verge of just an incredible tournament run. And so, to see that be cut short for her as a player, and then obviously just kind of understanding what, it was going to look like for her. It's the toughest thing that an athlete can go through is an injury like that. And so it was just so utterly, heartbreaking to witness. And you could hear a pin drop in the arena like when it happened. Like it was just the energy and everything was just sucked out of everybody. But yeah, I think for me, my first just initial thought was just as a friend and just you know, just heartbroken for her as a person. And just, I know how hard she works, and I know how hard and how much she puts into her craft, and she just loves the game of basketball, and she just wants to be the best. And she does everything right. And I think that that's extra. I mean, you don't want to see anybody go down with an injury, but especially somebody that, again, you really love and care about, and you know what they put into this game. And so, and she does everything the right way. You know what I mean? Like her process and her mentality, and she just does things the right way. So it just, you go like, why did this have to happen? Why her? You know, why now? And so your mind just kind of starts spinning in those things. But yeah, it was just heartbreaking.
I asked you that question just because of your close friendship with her, India. So it was really just like just as like a friend, I was kind of really
Yeah,
wondering. So I like
yeah,
really do appreciate that. I
of
understand if
course.
that was, really emotional if you have to, relive that a little bit.
No, for sure. I mean, again, yeah, yeah, you don't want to see anybody get injured ever, especially in sports, but to see somebody you, care about, um, go down with an injury like that, it's definitely difficult to watch. But again, she's an incredible person and an incredible player, and I'm a big believer in, everything happens for a reason, and you may not understand it at the moment. And, as I said, this season, if I've been reminded of anything, it's, how much USC, misses JuJu on the court, and women's basketball misses JuJu playing. And, so I'm really excited to see her, back on the court and playing the game she loves. And, she's gonna pick up right, where she left off. So I'm really excited for her.
So I do want to now ask you, now that you're not with the program on the staff anymore, just what has it been like to, just come to USC games and sort of, I guess, I mean, obviously, I mean, you probably obviously still have a good idea, but what's it like to just, not be in the locker room, at practices every day, like in the way you were both as a player and when you were on staff? Like, what's it like kind of now being, I guess, a bit more in that sort of fan capacity?
Yeah, for sure. Again, it's definitely interesting. I think that, the job, like my role, ended obviously like after season. It was just supposed to be like a 1 year position. And so it ended, about like May. And I was actually grateful, to Lindsay again and the staff. I coordinated our like USC women's basketball camp this past summer. So that was really fun. So I got to hang around a little bit longer. So I didn't, I was around till June, around June. But it's weird, I think that um these last like 6, 7 months for me have been a lot of growing pains and a lot of learning pains, and just trying to figure out a lot about myself, and what is it I want to do, and what's my next path, and what's right for me, and all those kind of things. And obviously I'm so passionate about basketball, and I know it's going to be within that realm. But yeah, again, it's just a shock to the system to go from, what your life looks like every day and like your routine, like as a player for 5 years, and then, okay, I'm not a player anymore, so I'm on staff for a year. And there's definitely some similarities. And again, I'm still around the same people, and I'm still around the same program, and everything is familiar. And then that's been like the last 6 months of my life, or 6 years of my life. And so I'm 24 years old. That's like a quarter of my life. Like that's everything I've known for the last 6 years. And so to now, like, not go to Galen every day, and like not, be around or be in the locker room or be at, at practice and stuff like that. It was definitely like a shock to my system a bit. But it's also really cool like to go to the games now. I still go to, every game that I can. And obviously again, still super close with everybody, around the program. And so, know a little bit more probably than your average fan on the program and things like that. But yeah, it's weird sometimes like sitting like at Galen in the stands, and I'm like, this is literally, I've never done this before. I remember the first game that I went to this year, I had to like ask somebody, I can't remember who I asked, but I was like, can I even bring this bag in? Like, can I bring water in that's like not open? Because I was like, wait, I don't even know, because I've always been a player or on staff. So little things like that you don't really think about. So it was a little bit weird at first to watch the games from the stands, knowing that my foot wasn't in it, in any kind of like capacity. So it's definitely strange, but it's also really cool. Like I like it. I like to be able to just like watch the games and observe, and kind of just be on the outside of it looking in. It offers, different perspective on things. So it's been cool to just kind of enjoy the team and without, being a fan. And obviously, like, it's my alma mater. I love USC. I want us to win it all every year. But it's interesting to I'm not as like invested in the way that I was as a player or as staff, if that makes sense. Like I'm obviously very invested because it's my school. It's like it's my team. But it's not the same, you know what I mean? Like when you put in like all the every day, things like that. So it's kind of nice to not be as like it's nice to enjoy the games and not be like, oh my God, like stressed about something or like, like, oh, like, are we gonna make this like, all kind of things like that. So it's definitely been fun, but it was for sure a shock to my system because that was, all I've known for 6 years and now kind of figuring everything else out outside of that. But, forever outside of you will be like USC's number one women's basketball number one fan.
Gotcha. And then a few more questions for you, Indy. I do want to ask you now, kind of just, especially now, kind of having sort of that bit more of that outsider fan perspective, but
Mhm.
still obviously possess a really deep and, like really deep knowledge of the game. Like just looking at you and USC, just looking at the schedule, what do you think the key to success is this year without having JuJu Watkins on the court, but while also still, building towards next season when JuJu's back and then Sanaya Hall and the other top recruits arrive?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think obviously, this past game they played against UConn was just a tough one. The UConn's the number one team in the country for a reason, and if they got some incredible players and kind of firing on all cylinders, and I hate to say it, but I feel as if they'll probably repeat. So it was just a tough game, and but yeah, I mean, I think that this is a good year to you know figure some things out and try some things out and other players can get some extra confidence and things in this year leading up to next year and I guess looking ahead into Big Ten play and things like that from my perspective like the team we've got some good pieces and they seem to get along really well, which is, important. And they're figuring it out. And I think that they're competing hard and they're playing hard and it's a learning process. It's not gonna, happen overnight. And I think that Jazzy Davidson is really good. And I think, but she's a freshman, it's an adjustment no matter how talented you are. Um, you know, Adjusting to college is a real thing and you're adjusting to physicality and speed and just a different game and spacing and all sorts of things like that. On top of again, to me, when I look back, the biggest thing for a freshman is like time management on everything. And again, getting a routine in and your classes. And so, being a freshman is not easy. And so, she's figuring it out and she's done some really nice things and I really liked what I've seen from her. So she's only going to continue to get better. And this is, great experience for her this year in terms of that. And I think that it'll only make next year even better for her. Um, and I think that Cara Dunn has been good, and I want to continue to see her, shoot the ball really well. She can really shoot it, and London has provided some spark off the bench, which I like. The bigs again, figuring it out. You have a big and Viv who didn't get a lot of experience last year playing wise in actual game like capacity. So it's everything is new for her and. Same with Gerda. I know she has some international experience, but she's never played college basketball before. That's an adjustment. Um, Kai Milton at Auburn, same kind of thing, didn't get a lot of like in-game experience. So this is new for her. So, there's a little bit of inexperience, with the bigs, but I think it's ultimately going to be, a good thing looking ahead. Um, but yeah, I think that they just need to continue to work on the offense and the spacing and the moving and kind of make the offense that offense flow and shoot the ball. We got to shoot the ball well, especially going into Big Ten play. That's going to be important. I think our defense is great, with Jazzy. I mean, her blocks are incredible. She does a really great job, on the weak side help in terms of blocking shots and things like that. And her length is really something special. And Kennedy, obviously, I think is the best defender in the country. Malia is a pest on the ball. People don't want to play against her. So we've got some definitely really good defenders. And um, Beth Burns, who's like our defensive head of the defense, she's always going to make sure that the team is right in that aspect. So um, no worries, no worries there. And yeah, I think we got to get on the boards. We're a team that, you know, uh, we just got to get on the boards more. We're not a big rebounding team, but that's going to be important getting into Big Ten play. And I think just continuing to, compete and work hard and be tough. They showed a lot of toughness versus Washington, and that's a tough, gritty team who is really good at rebounding. And we actually won the boards in that game, so that was a really good bright spot. So I've seen a lot of good bright spots, and obviously some areas to improve on. And again, it's a learning year, and yeah, I'm excited going into Big Ten play. How they'll do, and I'll be rooting them on.
So India, now we've reached the part of the interview where this is what I always ask all my guests who've been on here,
Okay.
who come on here for like a full length interview like this. So, what's the best advice you've gotten throughout your life? It can be like basketball related, non-basketball, wherever, whatever. Like
Hmm, that's a good question. Best advice. Hmm. I'll go. I mean, obviously, I've received some incredible advice over the years from, so many different people. But I guess I'll say this one because it resonates with me at this time in my life. But probably just to like be present and to not compare um your life to someone else's. I think obviously, as you know, like being in your 20s is challenging. It comes with some challenges and you're trying to, figure out who you are and trying to figure out what you want to do and where you want to be and all those different things. And especially in a world of social media and these phones, which are, great devices, but also incredibly dangerous as well. I think that, us as a generation are very quick to compare. Um, and, you want to compare your life to someone else's experiences and someone else's accomplishments and somebody else's achievements and trauma and experiences and wounds and all those kinds of things. But it's like you can't compare like your life to anybody else's. And so I think that that's something that I've been reminding myself of, just like comparison is the thief of joy, and to just um I don't know. I think like live your own life and take ownership of your life, and like your life is yours and you can't compare it to anybody else's like race. Like you run your own race and it's going to take you however long it's going to take you. And if I compare my life to yours like right now, like I don't know when you started, you know what I mean? You just can't compare. And so I think that that's something I've had to that's kind of resonated with me, and just being present. Like I think that sometimes I get in the in the space of like I'm looking forward to a moment in the future that like hasn't happened yet, instead of just like being in the now. And life is really precious and life is short, and all we have is now. And so I think that ultimately I think that's probably the best advice I've been given, is just to be present and be where your feet are. And I think that that's the advice that like most resonates with me right now and my season of life.
And my final question for you, India, is what's the best advice you got to anyone who sees India Otto and is trying to walk onto their college basketball team?
I think it's a great question. I think that you should bet on yourself, have confidence in your abilities. Ultimately, the amount of time and effort and work that you put into, where you are now. So don't, have that be affected by what other people think or what a coach says or whatever. Like, you know, like the work that you've put in. So be confident, bet on yourself. It's worth it. And ultimately, I think to be a selfless teammate and put the goals and vision of your team first above maybe what you want, is will really serve you in the end. At the end of the day, when you win, when the team wins, everybody wins. You know what I mean? When the team loses, everybody loses. In 10, 15 years from now, nobody's going to ask how many points did you get per game and like how many minutes did you play each game. I think some people in that kind of position, walk on position or things like that, sometimes you think about, and nobody like thinks about that 10, 15 years down the line. It's about being a part of a team. And again, like when you just are a selfless teammate and you put, your teammates and the shared vision of winning as a team and your goals above maybe what you want, it'll always pay off the end, and the game will reward you in more ways than you can imagine. So I would say bet on yourself, have confidence in your abilities, work hard, and always be a selfless teammate who gives energy, and gives positivity, because it will come back to you in more ways than you expect.
India Otto, thank you so much for joining me today on Behind the Kosh Tape. Such a pleasure to talk with you and really just hear about your story and just even I think, like I said earlier, I think a lot of people learned a few things about you, especially just like about that you weren't exactly a walk-on, but you really had just the walk-on mentality.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I was like, let me just announce that now because I don't feel like a lot of people knew that, and so yeah, now more people will know.
Secrets out.
Yeah, secrets out.
So that's gonna do it for us here on Behind the Kosh Tape. Big thank you to USC women's basketball alum India Otto for joining me today. Be sure to follow her at India_Otto on Instagram. Be sure to follow me at CrashLit. Subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you on the next Monday rundown. Fight on.